Coming in at number 5 we have Clown Motel in Nevada. In the 5th spot is the motel that's horrifying for so many reasons, hauntings aside. If you're afraid of clowns, like most people, I highly suggest you steer clear from this place. Located in Nevada, the Clown Motel is home to over 600 creepy clowns. To make matters worse, the motel's neighbor is of course a cemetery. Why not? It may look like it's straight out of a horror film, but don't worry, the Clown Motel only displays happy looking clowns, as if that's any better. Aside from the clowns, the motel has wood paneling on the walls reminiscent of the 1970s and bedrooms with outdated bedding. For some reason that makes it creepier. Next door is the Old Tonopah Cemetery, where the hotel's haunting is said to come from. Over 300 people were laid to rest there, some dying from suicide, murder, the Belmont mine fire, and a plague that cursed the area in 1902. The cause of it all is still unknown. Ghost adventurers visited the location in 2017 and caused a boom in popularity. The property was recently sold and the new owners are carrying on with the theme, constantly adding new clowns to the motel's collection. Coming in at number 4 we have Langham Hotel London. This historic hotel opened its doors in 1865, and in came many famous patrons over the years like Mark Twain, Oscar Wilde, and Winston Churchill. It's also said to be incredibly haunted, and given the age, it makes sense. A number of ghosts are known to frequent the property, one being a German prince. Story goes that the man plunged to his death by jumping out of a window before the start of World War I. He can be seen in his military uniform lingering around the 4th floor window. There's said to be a doctor who murdered his wife before killing himself while on their honeymoon. Legend also says that the Emperor Napoleon III spent his last days at the Langham Hotel and can now be spotted roaming the halls. Like most haunted hotels, there's always one room that's plagued the most by paranormal activity. At the Langham Hotel, that room is 333. Can we just talk about the fact that 333 times 2 is 666? Coincidence? I think that's a reach. The most common spectre spotting happens in the room by a man in Victorian era clothes. Also, Cher stayed at that hotel once, I remember, because I saw the paparazzi shots on the Daily Mail website. Coming in at number 3 we have Queen Mary, Long Beach. The RMS Queen Mary is a British ocean liner turned hotel that's known for its many spirits aboard and below deck. Making its maiden voyage in 1936, she eventually served as a transport ship for Allied troops in World War II. Today this floating haunted hotel calls SoCal home, aka Southern California, because I didn't know we were doing the lingo up in here. SoCal. While converted as a troop carrier during the war, the ship collided with her escort, slicing the HMS Caracal in half. Around 300 people drowned as a result. Throughout the years, staff and guests have reported seeing many different apparitions and have experienced unexplained events. Screams and wails can be heard coming from the boiler room, where a young sailor was said to have been severed in half by a door. There have also been reports of a little girl who likes to play games with the living by the swimming pool. The saloon on the Queen Mary is a hotspot for Lady in White sightings, who is said to be a first-class passenger. At least she haunts in style, often being spotted dancing in a long ball gown. Perhaps the most haunted spot in the hotel is located on the infamous B deck, specifically suite B340. They actually stopped offering the suite because they received an abundance of complaints about paranormal activity. Of course, this drew mass attention to the room, so they now offer a ghost package for those brave enough to spend the night in the most haunted suite on the ship. With its intriguing and checkered past, it's no surprise that the Queen Mary was once labelled by Time magazine as one of the top 10 most haunted places on Earth. In at number 2 we have the Stanley Hotel in Colorado. The Stanley Hotel is perhaps the most infamous haunted hotel in the world, and for a good reason. It's said to be so haunted that author Stephen King based his popular novel The Shining on the colonial revival style hotel, which was later adapted into the hit film starring Jack Nicholson. Should you decide to spend a night at the Stanley Hotel, you'll be spending it among a plethora of spirits that are said to haunt the grounds, and not all of them are human. But let's look back to the hotel's haunted history. It was built by inventor Freeland Oscar Stanley, who moved to Colorado hoping to relieve his tuberculosis symptoms in 1903. One season later, he was a new man, no longer weak and frail. He was so overjoyed that he decided to build a sophisticated hotel, and in 1908, the Stanley Hotel opened its doors. Stanley lived until the ripe age of 91, but his spirit is said to still roam the halls of the place he loved. His wife, Flora, also has been spotted in the hotel and is known to play the piano. All ghosts play the piano, apparently. Another spirit is that of a housekeeper named Elizabeth Wilson. She was seriously injured on the property in an explosion, but thankfully survived. Her spirit is said to reside in room 217, which happens to be the same room that Stephen King stayed in. The author apparently had a nightmare of his young son being chased around the hotel. On the 4th floor, guests and staff have reported hearing children laughing and playing. There's also a spirit of a little boy named Billy who is known to play with the hair of guests. So the next type of ghost isn't actually that scary, more cute if anything. On the grounds there's a small pet cemetery. People have reported seeing apparitions of a cat and dog roaming around. The Stanley Hotel also has an underground cave system below with a high concentration of minerals that are said to attract spirits. And finally, in at number 1 we have the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Located in the dirty underbelly of LA, the Cecil Hotel is not for the faint of heart. It has housed famous serial killers, a bizarre mystery, and tons of death, but let's start at the beginning. In its glory, the Cecil was the definition of opulence, with a grand marble lobby, stained glass windows, and beautiful statues. But that quickly fell through when it was hit hard by the Great Depression. In 1931, the Cecil had its first of many suicides. The once elegant hotel and the area around it slowly became what we know today as Skid Row. After a string of more suicides, the hotel became a place for people to die. Perhaps the most grim death was when a woman gave birth in the hotel and in a panic, she threw herself out the window. Let's say she did that. I like changing history so that I can keep it in. Elizabeth Short, famously known as the Black Dahlia, was also said to have had a drink in the hotel's lobby days before her gruesome murder. Even more famous, or should I say infamous, people have frequented the Cecil Hotel. In the 1980s, Richard Ramirez, or the Night Stalker, was terrorizing the West Coast, murdering at least 38 people in less than a year. The serial killer called the Cecil home and based his operations out of the hotel. He allegedly even dumped bloody clothes and evidence in the dumpsters behind it. Austrian serial killer Jack Unterweger also resided at the Cecil in the 1990s. After serving time in prison for a murder conviction back in his home country, he checked into the Cecil while working as a journalist. He murdered 3 sex workers and even reported on his crimes until he was caught. The Cecil Hotel found itself at the center of a mystery in 2013 that took the world by storm. The disappearance of Elisa Lam made headlines. The 21-year-old tourist's body was found floating in the hotel's water tank. Her death was ruled accidental and attributed to mental illness, but there are very strange elements to the story that still leave doubt in people's minds. There's security camera footage that shows Elisa in the elevator acting rather strange. She seems to be hiding by pressing her body up against the wall, occasionally peeking out and acting as if someone is in there. Whether you believe her death was accidental, homicide, or paranormal, it's still an incredibly bizarre and haunting story. Although the Cecil Hotel has since been rebranded and has undergone a facelift, there are too many deaths and sinister stories attached to the hotel for it to not be haunted. Coming in at number 5, we have the Queen Anne Hotel in San Francisco. The Queen Anne Hotel was originally an exclusive girls' boarding school built in 1980. This building is said to be haunted by the spirit of the old headmaster. The building was reportedly sold against the headmaster's wishes. It is said her spirit is still attached to room 410, which was her old office. Guests have reported that her ghost seems to be a very caring soul. Hauntings have included unpacking suitcases, tucking guests in, and even singing them to sleep, which sounds terrifying. One guest even reported waking up on the floor with their bedding neatly tucked around them. Not every ghost in the hotel is as warm as caring as the headmistress though. The building was previously used for various secret societies. They would meet here with their members who reportedly had something to do with astrology. Could they have been messing with the paranormal? People have reported suddenly feeling very cold in certain spots in the house. They feel like they're being watched, with others catching strange reflections in the mirror. So not all of the Queen Anne's ghosts are bad, but is it really worth the risk for the headmistress to tuck you in at night? I mean, I don't really want anyone tucking me in at night, dead or alive. A little bit weird. In at number 4, Hotel Provincial in Louisiana. The Hotel Provincial, located in New Orleans, Louisiana, is said to be haunted by the spirit of a former soldier. The hotel has a beautiful French design and boasts about their historical heritage to the land. It turns out the hotel is built over an old military hospital from 1722. In 1831, twin houses were then built on the site, but they both burned down in 1874. There have been many guests who have reported hauntings of the soldier in many different different forms. Some hear doors opening and closing on their own, or footsteps walking the halls at night. Several seances have actually been performed at the hotel over the years, many of which resulted in ghostly visions or recorded audio of a voice saying, "Tell Diane I have to go." There was even a female guest who reported being pulled from her bed by her hand across the room as she kicked and screamed. Although not everyone has an encounter with the soldier, it's enough to keep me from booking a room. In at number 3 we have Holmes' Murder Castle in Chicago. Luckily this is not a hotel you can visit any longer, but it is still a cautionary tale, so do your research before booking to stay anywhere. Herman Mudgett, who went by the name Dr. Holmes, built and operated his 60-room hotel in the Chicago suburbs in the late 1800s. He was the architect for this hotel and had a very clear vision of what he wanted. The castle included a lot of strange features: rooms with no windows, doors that didn't go anywhere, trapdoors, and even hidden passageways. When he opened for business, the unlucky visitors got more than they bargained for. Dr. Holmes went on to be known as the United States' first serial killer. For 4 years he held the visitors prisoner, torturing and killing them. He admitted to 28 murders, but they suspect he was responsible for many more. Some rooms were sealed shut and used as gas asphyxiation chambers, others were lined with iron plates and had blowtorches built into the walls to burn the victims. He was eventually arrested for insurance fraud of all things. The murders were revealed when investigators searched the hotel. They found surgical rooms covered in blood, jars filled with bones, prison rooms fitted with alarms in case anyone tried to escape, and chutes attached to his rooms to directly dump the bodies in the basement. He even had his own crematorium, vats of acid, and 2 lime pits that could dissolve a body in a matter of hours. Once he was hung for his crimes, his hotel was burned to the ground to prevent this from happening to any more traveling souls. So just because you find a good deal on TripAdvisor, do your research before booking. Although we do all love a good deal. In at number 2, Crescent Hotel in Arkansas. The Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas was the first luxury spa in southern United States. Built in 1886, it was also doomed to be a haunted attraction. The entire town is known to have ghosts roaming, but they seem to be especially attracted to the Crescent. In particular, you will want to avoid room 218. The legend goes that a stonemason fell to his death in the area that is now room 218. No one knows the stonemason's name, but hotel employees call him Michael. Those who have stayed in room 218 have reported many weird interactions with his ghost. He has been heard screaming in terror from the ceiling above the bed. Someone even claimed they saw him in the room mirror attempting to reach out into the room. However, Michael is not the only ghost haunting Crescent. The hotel was also a cancer hospital in the 1930s. Guests have reported seeing nurses moving corpses on a gurney between the halls. There have also been sightings of Dr. Ellis, a cancer surgeon, as well as the Lady in White, a woman in a flowing gown who floats through the gardens and perches on balconies. You might think all of these hauntings might be bad for business, but the hotel remains a big tourist attraction as well as a major stop in the local ghost tours. And finally, in at number 1 we have Hotel Galvez in Galveston, Texas. The Hotel Galvez in Texas has seen a lot of death and misfortune. It may look like a beautiful luxury hotel and spa, but having been built around 110 years ago, its history is hard to shake. A hurricane hit Galveston, Texas in 1900, killing thousands and destroying the town, including the candy store that once stood where the hotel is now located. The hotel opened in 1911 in efforts to rebuild the town. It was reported that while restoration was taking place, many bodies were discovered and disturbed, and ghosts reawakened. There are many different reports of different types of ghosts from around the hotel. Children can be heard playing and laughing lower down in the hotel near the restrooms. They could have once played here before the candy store was destroyed, and their spirits like the familiarity with the location. If you ask the staff of the hotel, they too have their own stories and interactions with the spirits. One known ghost is the love-torn lady who haunts the 5th floor. It is said that she lost the love of her life at sea. Stricken with grief, she hanged herself from the top turrets of the hotel. Her love later returned from the sea, much to everyone's surprise, only to find what his beloved had done in her grief. She now walks the halls in her sorrow. It is said when she wants to be left alone, she will disable the electronic keys for the floor, and those around can feel a cold presence that is not common for the area. This is just one of the many haunted buildings in the area. Will you be taking a haunted tour around Galveston, Texas? I unlikely will, because I've got no desire to go to Texas, to be honest. Nothing for me there. Coming in at number 5, we have Omni Shoreham Hotel in Washington, D.C. The Omni Shoreham Hotel was built in 1930 by the owner of a construction company. One of the hotel's major financial partners was Henry L. Doherty, who later lived in the hotel with his family but left soon after his daughter died in what is known as the Ghost Suite. Although there is a haunted past with the hotel, it does hold many luxurious events. Franklin D. Roosevelt even held his first inaugural ball here, and many balls have been held here since. When Henry L. Doherty lived at the hotel, he occupied Suite 870. They moved into the hotel with their maid, Juliet Brown. One night at 4 a.m, Juliet woke up feeling unwell. She rang the front desk but unfortunately died before she could speak with anyone. Not long after this happened, Henry's wife and daughter also passed away in the same room. The cause of them passing is unknown. After this unfortunate string of events, Mr. Doherty moved out of the hotel. The apartment was then unoccupied for over 50 years. The Doherty apartment was since renovated into a hotel suite. However, since this was reopened, there have been a number of weird happenings. Guests soon reported hearing faint voices and witnessed doors closing and opening by themselves. Televisions as well as lights would also turn off and on by themselves, strangely all around 4 a.m. at the same time it's believed Juliet passed away. Some occupants also said that they came back to the room with the furniture rearranged. If you do ever find yourself at this hotel, do not stay in the Doherty suite. Coming in at number 4, we have Admiral Fell Inn in Maryland. The inn has 8 buildings which date back to the late 1700s. Before becoming an inn, the building had many different uses, including a ship chandlery, a vinegar factory, a YMCA, a boarding house for actors, and a sailor's lodging house. In 1900, Fells Point was a rough place. It was full of sailors, mobster hangouts, illegal gambling halls, brothels, and sailors. A Christian boarding house and recreational center then opened, which was called the Anchorage, and the building is now the central structure of the Admiral Fell Inn. In the early 1900s, a lot of death was seen here. Mercy nuns would try to treat wounded sailors in the main building, but there was only so much they could do and many died. In 1985, it was renovated into a 38-room bed and breakfast and renamed the Admiral Fell Inn. 1996 brought upgrades and expanded it into the 80-room hotel that it is today. The inn is considered to be the most haunted place in Maryland, with many sailors even dying from their wounds or taking their own lives here. There may also be a number of mob victims who passed away here due to the dangerous past. One room is particularly dangerous, room 413. This room was the scene of a ghastly murder in 1999. Christopher Jones, an out-of-town guest attending a pharmaceutical convention, was killed by Gary Mick. Some of the hotel's housekeepers often get a strange feeling when they clean the room, and others refuse to go in it at all. Some feel a breeze or a hand resting on their shoulder. Others have experienced sudden cold spots and shadows darting around the room. People have also seen floating sailors sitting where a fire escape once was. Others hear knocking on their doors from butlers who once were. There have been multiple times when the hotel had to be evacuated due to hurricanes nearby. When the hotel was empty and the manager went back in for a last check, they could hear partying from one of the floors, believed to be the old sailors who used to party at the hotel. Maybe if partying with ghosts is what you're looking for, this is the place for you. Coming in at number 3, we have Galley Castle in Northern Ireland. The stunning Galley Castle was built back in 1625 and is steeped in history. The original castle served as a place of refuge for the Protestants during the Civil Wars. During that time, it was handed down from fathers to sons, and in 1799 it was passed to William Shaw, the last squire of Galley. In the early 1800s, the Shaw family lost their wealth and the estate was sold. The castle sits on a beach in Northern Ireland. It has apparently been dubbed the jewel in the Hastings crown. It is reported that while William Shaw and his family lived in the castle, a lot of sinister things happened. William Shaw was driven mad, desperate for his wife to give him a male heir to carry on his legacy. When Lady Shaw did not deliver him a son, he locked her up in a tower at the top of the castle. There are 2 stories about what happened next. One claims that Lady Shaw fell to her death while attempting to escape, while the second goes that William pushed her from the tower. I am tempted to believe the second personally, since then it is said that over 400-year-old ghost still roams the grounds, looking for her beloved children who she was separated from. She has her own dedicated room at the hotel to try and contain the hauntings, but there have still been hauntings with guests. She has been seen wandering the grounds late at night. Others have heard her crying from within their room or feeling a presence that is watching over them. This is not a hotel you should visit with your children. If she mistakes you for one of her lost girls, there's no telling what she might do. Coming Coming in at number 2, the Hay Adams, Washington, D.C. The Hay Adams Hotel is only 1,000 feet from the White House and known as the closest you can get to the White House without an invite. The hotel is located on the site where the 1885 homes of John Hay and Henry Adams once stood. In 1927, a property developer bulldozed the homes to build a 138-room residential hotel. Hotel magnate Julius Manger purchased the property in 1932 and changed the name to the Manger Hay Adams Hotel. He owned the hotel until his death. Manger died in this residential suite within the hotel. The ornate ceiling was the last thing he saw. This is not the first death on the land that the Hay Adams stands on. Adams' wife Marion Hooper Adams took her own life on the site in 1885. In a fit of grief, Henry Adams destroyed all of Marion's things, including her photographs and papers. It is believed by many that Henry had a mistress, and maybe that contributed to Marion's depression. Henry and Marion are buried together under a monument called Grief. Staff of the Hay Adams Hotel complained that the ghost of Clover is most active during early December, the anniversary of her death. Reports of doors mysteriously opening and closing on their own, a woman crying softly, and voices of sorrow coming from apparently nowhere. Some housekeepers have also experienced being hugged by an unseen presence. The hauntings do not stop it from being the most popular hotel in Washington and has hosted many a politician, including the Obamas, before inauguration. Just be aware, if you do stop by, you might get a hug from the spirit of Mrs. Adams. And finally, in at number 1, we have the Marshall House in Savannah. The Marshall House was opened in 1951 by Mary L. Marshall on Broughton Street in Savannah's premier shopping district. It is the oldest hotel in the area, being one of the only houses specifically built to be a hotel. It is a beautiful hotel considered by architectural historians to be the finest structure Mary Marshall ever built. Although it started as a beautiful structure and still is to this day, it has had its share of death and horror. During the Civil War, the Marshall House was occupied by the Union and used as a hospital until the end of the war. It was also used twice more as a hospital during the yellow fever epidemics of the 19th century. When it came to restoring the house in the late 1900s, they discovered human remains under the floorboards. The house became a crime scene, but they soon discovered that the downstairs room was used as the hospital surgery room. It is believed that the remains of limbs that had been amputated during the war were discarded underneath the house. Since the bones were disturbed there have been numerous claims of hauntings within the home. Paranormal activity is a frequent occurrence around the hotel to this day. If you choose to stay there, you might notice the faucets turning on and off, lights that inexplicably flicker, electronic items powering themselves, toilets suddenly overflowing for no apparent reason, and disembodied voices that echo throughout the halls. One guest recalled, "A room to be wary of, 306. The loud hall noises in the middle of the night happened on the 4th floor where we just happened to be staying. I've lived in many haunted houses, but Marshall House creeped me out completely. I loved it there, but I could not rest. Yes, it is old and noisy, but there's way more going on there than meets the eye. But what else can you really expect from a city built on top of dead bodies? If you want to sleep through the night, Marshall House is not the hotel for you." Coming in at number 5, Hotel Maestei's Premier Akasaka in Tokyo. The Maestei's Premier Akasaka was built on the site of the Akasaka Weekly Mansion. Since opening, the hotel has been linked to countless cases of people taking their own lives and sudden deaths that have reportedly taken place at the former building. Since then, it is a common occurrence for guests to experience the paranormal. One of the most common claims is that an eerie, white mist can be seen filling the rooms. No one knows where it comes from or why, but it can disappear as fast as it appears. There are also often reports of a woman appearing in some of the rooms. She has been seen in doorways or even at the foot of the bed. Guests have reported a cold hand stroking their hair or grabbing them while inside of their room. One woman was even dragged by her hair across her room. Electronical items also appear to stop working while within the hotel, with some turning off and on mysteriously, then working normally again upon leaving the hotel. It seems like you'd be safe choosing another hotel in this area. I would not like to be dragged across my room while trying to enjoy my holiday. Coming in at number 4, we have Bourbon Orleans Hotel in New Orleans. When it opened in 1819, the Orleans Theatre and Ballroom became the setting for European operas and entertainment for Creole society in New Orleans. The 1,300-seat theatre quickly placed New Orleans on the map as the opera capital of the United States throughout the 19th century. By 1881, both the Orleans Theatre and Ballroom had been acquired by the Sisters of the Holy Family for use as a school, orphanage, and convent. The Sisters of the Holy Family were at the location for 83 years until the need for expansion pressed them to sell the property to hotel interests. The stories of the ghosts in the hotel seem to spread over each era of the hotel's history. There is something about the ground the hotel is built on that seems to keep spirits locked there. There is the story of the Confederate soldier. He is known known around the hotel simply as the Man. He has been known to haunt both the 6th and 3rd floors. Many people have seen him standing around on these floors, and sometimes his footsteps can be heard walking around. A yellow fever hit New Orleans around the time that the nuns were running their convent. They cared for sick children who had been orphaned. Due to this, there are spirits of nuns and little girls who have been seen around the hotel. The most frequently told tale is of a little girl. You can hear her light footsteps walking around from time to time, and some have even seen her rolling her ball and chasing it down the 6th floor corridors. The final well-known ghost to inhabit the Bourbon is that of the Lonely Dancer. She has been seen dancing underneath the ballroom's crystal chandelier. Others have commented on how they could see someone stood behind the curtains within the ballroom, yet when they look to see who is hiding, no one is there. Seems she wants to be included in the lavish events, but must only watch from afar. In at number 3, we have Emily Morgan Hotel in San Antonio. Before the building was built, the grounds of what is now the hotel was where the Mexican forces battled the Texans in the long barracks of the Alamo in 1836. Over 600 men lost their lives on the land that the hotel now lives on. When originally built, the location was the Medical Arts Building. It housed over 100 medical professionals from doctors to dentists. It was even believed to have a section devoted to the care of those suffering from psychological conditions. The building also had a morgue and crematorium, providing for patients and their family from birth to end of life. Of course, with any old building that has witnessed death, the stories about what happened here continue to grow and interest those who visit. The staff and guests of the hotel have shared their stories about weird occurrences at the hotel. These moments of weirdness have led some to conclude the hotel is haunted. One example of this is the phone ringing in the middle of the night. Once answered, no one is there. Room attendants have also told stories of them cleaning the room, then once they go to clean the bathroom, they will re-enter the room to see that the bedding has been thrown around the room. That sucks. Guests have also reported unusual occurrences during their stays. Some have seen hospital gurneys outside of the room when looking through the peephole, only to see nothing there once the door is opened. Elevators will stop on random floors where there is no one waiting, as if it has been called by a spirit. Emily Morgan Hotel follows the traditional superstition of a lot of the other hotels and does not have a 13th floor. What many people do not know about the hotel is on the 14th floor there isn't a room 1408. The room number stops at 1407 by design, and the next room is the Duke's Suite. When you add the numbers 1408 together, 1408, you get the number 13. Hence the movie 1408, starring John Cusack. Great movie, very scary. Coming in at number 2, we have the Bell Hotel in England. The Bell Hotel was built back in the 15th century. It was first established as an inn way back then and has seen many owners and guests pass through there in its time. Many paranormal investigators have revisited the hotel over the years and truly feel that the site is one of the most haunted in all of Norfolk and the UK. The Bell Hotel itself has been a hostelry since it was established some 16 centuries ago. Some of its period features include wattle and daub walls, Samson's post, Elizabethan wall paintings, a priest's hole, and the original secret passage out of the inn. If you do happen to find yourself at the hotel, avoid the main suite bedroom. It is said that this room in particular is haunted by the ghost of a hooded monk, who either lived or stayed at the hotel in the past, had taken his own life in that very room. Guests have reported the feeling like they're being watched or a sudden unexplained chill in the air. The second most active ghost of the hotel is that of the old landlady Betty Radcliffe. The landlady died when she was pushed out the window of room 10. Her spirit told to never leave the hotel. Guests have reported her walking around at night checking on the hotel as she once did. Some report knocks on their door, but when they open to see who it is, no one is there. These are just the known ghosts of the hotel. After more than 6 centuries in business, who's to know who or what else is trapped within its walls? And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Draxham Castle, Denmark. Draxham Slot is one of the oldest buildings in Denmark. The original Draxham Castle was built around 1215 by the Bishop of Roskilde. During the Middle Ages, the building was modified from the original palace to a fortified castle. During the Count's feud in 1534, it was so strong that it was the only castle on Zealand to withstand the armies of Count Christopher. In connection with the Reformation, Draxham was confiscated by the Crown along with all the property of the Catholic Church. As Crown land during the period from 1536 to 1664, Draxham Castle was used as a prison for noble and ecclesiastical prisoners. Among the prisoners were a number of rather famous inmates such as Joachim Ronno, that old gem, who was the last Catholic Bishop of Roskilde and ironically once owned the place, and James Hepburn, 4th Earl of Bothwell and 3rd husband to Mary, Queen of Scots. James Hepburn is the first ghost to haunt Draxham Castle. He was arrested when his boat had to stop in Denmark due to a storm for not having the correct identification papers. Some of his past misdemeanors caught up with him in the shape of an influential jilted former fiancé whose dowry he had run off with, coupled with the fact that it was known the English were keen to catch up with him regarding the murder of his current wife's second husband. The legend says that Hepburn went insane during the 10 years he was locked inside Draxham Castle. He spent the time pacing around his pillar until, when he died in April 1578, he had worn a circular groove in the floor that can still be seen to this day. Even though his body was removed from the castle, his spirit remains behind. The ghost of the Earl is heard rather than seen. People report the sounds of horses' hooves in the courtyard, sometimes accompanied by a fully loaded carriage. At some point in the 1930s, while repairing the plumbing, the workmen made a gruesome discovery. At this point, there had already been sightings of a ghostly maiden around the grounds. The tale goes that she was the daughter of one of the many owners of the castle. It would have been totally unacceptable for a lady of aristocracy to strike up a relationship with a commoner, but the young lady, who may have been Selina Bovels, fell in love with the man who worked at the castle. Their secret affair was rumbled by her father, who in a rage not only locked her in a prison cell in the tower, but went so far as to brick her up inside of the wall. When the plumbers tore down the wall, they discovered her remains. People now make the link that this must be the ghostly maiden. She can often be seen around the grounds searching, possibly for her lost lover. Others have heard crying that they can never place. Could there be more hidden bones around the castle? I won't be staying there to find out.